John Ulzheimer is known as one of our nation's most recognized credit experts. Having worked for 28 years in the credit industry, John has become one of the most prolific speakers about credit and the go-to authority on answers to credit-related questions. Credit Countdown with John Ulzheimer.
Hi, my name is John Ulzheimer, and I'm a consumer credit expert in the credit industry. I spent some time at FICO, which is obviously the company that invented the credit score, and I spent some time at Equifax, which is one of the three generally recognized credit reporting companies. In today's vlog, I'm going to talk about the practical difference between authorized user accounts as they appear on your credit reports and accounts where you are the primary obligor or the individual cardholder. So in other words, you are the one who opened the card versus an authorized user, someone that you have added to your credit card and have given permissions to use the card just like you would be as the primary cardholder. However, the authorized user has no liability for any of the debt that's incurred on the card. And authorized users have been around for decades. They're not anything new. In fact, when I established credit for the first time back in the dark ages, my father added me as an authorized user on a credit card that he had opened in the 1950s. You can see that this authorized user approach to building credit, establishing credit, rebuilding credit, reestablishing credit is certainly nothing new and has been a common and generally accepted method of building and establishing credit for many, many years. So the question is there a difference between an authorized user account appearing on your credit report versus an account where you're the primary obligor or the individual cardholder? And cosmetically, the answer is yes. If you were to look at a credit card account where you're the primary cardholder, it would indicate as much on the credit report. There's actually a code on the credit report called the ECOA, or the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, the ECOA code, as it pertains to credit reporting in the context of credit reporting, indicates your relationship with the particular account. So if you have an ECOA code that indicates you are the individual cardholder, then obviously you're the one who is represented on the credit report as being the person who applied for and opened the card. If you are added to a pre-existing account as an authorized user, then the ECOA code would indicate that you are in fact an authorized user. And so what that means is that anybody who would look at your credit report and see those two accounts, one would interpret the primary position, if you will, as you're the one who is liable for the debt, you're the one who opened the card, versus someone who is an authorized user. The interpretation of that is that you are allowed to use the card, you can make charges on the card, you're benefiting from the credit card on your credit reports. However, you have no financial liability as it pertains to the debt associated with that account. So now let's talk about how they are considered in credit scoring systems. Credit scoring systems are software, and software is updated over time. But every time software is updated, it doesn't necessarily replaces the pre-existing version. So what you end up with is you have many generations of the FICO scoring software are still commercially available and in use today. The same with VantageScore, another commonly used credit scoring system, is that there's more than one version of that model commercially available and in use. As it pertains to FICO, how their scoring systems consider authorized user accounts versus individual accounts is going to vary based on the generation of their score. There are older FICO scoring models that are commercially available and work perfectly fine and are in use today, consider the authorized user account equally 100% of the time on par with its individual cardholder peer. So in other words, there is no difference in how it affects your score, whether you're the authorized user or the individual cardholder. There was a time when this issue of adding a credit card in your name as an authorized user did get some attention, and there was some abuse of the process. And so FICO made the decision to attempt to dilute the gaming aspect of being added as an authorized user. And so now in their more contemporary scoring models, or the contemporary generations of their scoring systems, they do have logic in place that attempts to identify whether or not someone is just trying to game the system versus someone who is not trying to game the system. And so FICO has never publicly disclosed exactly what that logic is, so there's really no point in speculating on what it is because it would be just that, speculation. But they have gone on record, this isn't anything new or secret, that they have figured out a way to differentiate between someone who's gaming the system versus someone who's not, and therefore they are able to protect the score, the integrity of the score as a result. The way that you can tell whether or not you have authorized user accounts on your credit reports and whether or not those accounts are being considered in the credit scoring system is actually not that difficult to do. You can pull your own credit reports, you can see what the balances are on your credit cards and the credit limits are on your credit cards, and you can determine what your revolving utilization ratio on those accounts. And so really what you would do is you would add up the balances on your credit cards, and that'd be the sum of the balances, and then you would add up the credit limits on those same credit cards, and that would be the sum of your credit limits. And then you would just divide that aggregate balance figure by the aggregate limit figure, and that's going to give you the revolving utilization. That is the measurement, if you will, that would include the authorized user account. What you can do is you can redo the math, just do the math all over again, but exclude the balance on the authorized user account and also the credit limit on the authorized user account. Whatever the ratio is, using that math, whatever the ratio would be if the credit scoring system were to exclude or ignore or bypass that particular account. You're not going to know whether or not the score is actually taking into account the authorized user fully or not unless your credit score, for example, is being calculated in the process of mortgage lending. Those scoring systems are relatively old, actually closer to the turn of the century. And so those credit scoring systems did in fact take into account authorized users on par, individual account holder type of accounts. The ones that are being used today, FICO 8, FICO 9, FICO 10, which is supposed to come out at all three of the credit bureaus by the end of 2020, those are the ones where FICO has stated they have incorporated logic that attempts to differentiate between someone who's trying to game the system versus someone who is not. So if you have any questions about this issue or any of the other issues pertaining to credit scores or credit card accounts and how they're considered, please add them in the comment section below, and I will do my best to answer those. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.
For more videos and credit tips from John Ulzheimer, go to www.tradelinesupply.com.